Devils Tuesday. This is the State of the Fan Address presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Nick Villano, the editor-in-chief extraordinaire, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and now on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio studios in both North and South Jersey bunkers, covering the Garden State, talking Devils hockey. Tonight's title is Dougie Downs Quinnesota. I see there's a pun in there.
Oh, we're punny. We're punny today.
That's great.
I was thinking of all kinds of things. I was going to tie like Hamilton, like the musical. Like I was going to do something with the Hughes ball. This is what we landed on. Yeah. And Sam, do you notice what I'm wearing?
I see a Taylor Ham hat.
Do you remember what popularized this hat?
No.
I believe it was 2022. Whatever the first year Dougie Hamilton was here. This is a New Jersey company that makes this hat. And Dougie Hamilton wore it to like the exit interviews. Everybody went crazy over this hat, including myself, because, you know, I love this pork product. But yeah, it's so I had to buy it. And you know, after the big night last night from Dougie Hamilton, which, Sam, I don't want to be the I told you so guy or the know-it-all, but I literally was like, I hate when I do this, but I really didn't see anybody say this except for me, where I said, I'm pretty sure Dougie Hamilton's going to get into the second half of the back-to-back. Just because of the circumstances. Simone Nemeth just came back from injury, and Johnny Kovacevic just came back from injury. And, like, you shuffle lineups on back-to-backs. Like, when you have the pieces, why wouldn't you put one of the guys who's, you know, healthy and 100% and not tired? I was like, I think we're making a bigger deal out of this. And, like, don't get me wrong. Tom Fitzgerald completely bungled this. Just a complete and utter mess. What you had to say was just, hey, listen, we made a lineup decision. Dougie Hamilton will get back in the lineup when it makes sense. But instead, he called Simone Nemeth our best defenseman. Or say, you know, before he was injured, he was playing like our best defenseman. It was talking about how you have to get these guys in the lineup, and it's like and a lot of what he was saying about Kovacevic, like Hamilton's kind of been doing this year with the defensive side of the game. So it was completely bungled, but it always made sense to have Hamilton get back into the lineup. There's so many moments, Sam, from the past 2 months of like what could have been. Like if you beat the Jets in that game, you're 1 point out of a playoff spot right now. You're 2 points out of a playoff spot. But that's one game. You're one game away from a playoff spot. There's just like there's a bunch of games where you're just like, man, did you like? And I'm not even talking about like, listen, they didn't show up for the Pittsburgh game. There's a couple games after that over the last couple weeks where they didn't deserve the win, but there's a couple where you're like, man, like what happened there? And you're just really looking at how, whether it's goaltending let them down or whether it's where the offense couldn't finish. And then you see what could have been last night. I will say this, Sam. It was the typical – it wasn't – last night was such a wild game, and I use that pun with conviction. But it was a wild game because Minnesota had like 6 open nets that they just missed. And the Devils probably blocked like 3 of them, and they hit a post too. But Matthew Boldy just stayed missing open nets. He missed 4 himself, I think.
Yeah.
where he just hit the side of the net, or he just took a bad shot, or I think he shot through the crease once. And then obviously Quinn Hughes hit the post once. But this Minnesota team was all over the Devils, but they kept failing on their opportunities. And there was a bunch of opportunities where they looked like they were alone in front, but then a defenseman came from out of nowhere and blocked it, or a forward came from behind and poked it away from them. There was a lot of opportunities for Minnesota there in the first period, especially in like the first half of the second period, where it wasn't going for them. And we've seen that narrative for the Devils so many times. It's almost like they were like, oh, I know this one. Oh, we're going to win this game. And like a little bit of confidence came from like those missed opportunities on the side. And it's almost like for so long, you know, there for like the past like 3 weeks, it's been a lot of just the Devils playing like garbage. But it was a lot of bad luck for a lot of the season, whether it's the injury luck or whether it's, you know, taking shots with wide open nets and like somehow like just Jedi mind trick the puck doesn't go in like so many times. The luck maybe turned around last night, and I was gonna write about this if it happened again, but the body language of the Winnipeg game is unlike the body language I've ever seen from any team that I've covered ever. And Sam, you know I've been in this game for a long time. I've never seen a team so lackluster on game or go ahead and game tying goals in my life. Just like not a care. This is the Winnipeg game we're talking about. Nico scored that first goal to make it one. I think it was to make it 1-1. Luke Hughes celebrated. Nico kind of cared. Jack Hughes didn't emote. And then I think Cody Glass was the only guy who was really cheering after that for his goals. And man, it was a concerning performance. The team is just really in its own head to the point where it's almost like they were looking like towards something. It was very clear that this team was begging for something to be done. And like Hamilton being benched, I think it was a message to be like, that wasn't it. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for something else. A trade or a change, you know, in an important decision-making position. Like this team is begging for a big decision, and like the guys up in the front office are just can't pull the trigger on it. But when you get Dougie Hamilton back in the lineup, I think that meant something. I think that meant ignore the noise. I don't care how much noise it's going to – like they could have very easily been like, we made the decision, we pulled off the Band-Aid, we're not going to put it back on. We don't want to put Dougie Hamilton back in the lineup just to take him out again and cause a media firestorm. But they didn't care. They said, no, we're going to put Dougie Hamilton back in. Nemitz is clearly not ready. He had a terrible game against Winnipeg. He was directly at fault for 2 goals. Jake Allen wasn't great, obviously, against Winnipeg, but like Nemitz just played terribly. So he took Nemitz out. Keefe made the right decision. And here's the thing, Sam. This is what happens when you have a bad season. This week has been the craziest Fitzgerald rumor week I've ever seen. It is turned on him. This week alone, we've heard that the analytics department told him not to sign Andre Palat, and he refused. Signed him anyway. And then now is refusing to trade him because he doesn't want to look like he made a bad signing.
Do you believe that? Do you actually believe that? Because I don't. I'll tell you a reason why I don't.
Well, I'll tell you the reason why I can see it is because if you remember, that was that same day they were supposed to sign Johnny Gaudreau. and then Gaudreau signed in Columbus. The rumor was that they were still going to sign both, but they were going to make it work with Gaudreau and Palat. They just had to figure out the contracts if Gaudreau signed, and then Gaudreau didn't sign, and then they just gave Palat what they originally agreed to. That's the only part of me that was like, maybe he just really likes this guy for whatever reason. And again, those guys made sense in Pittsburgh, so maybe that's what he was going off of. And you have to listen. A lot of this is revisionist history because Palat was really good for a month, and then tore his groin. If Palat just was able to regress like a normal older person who put a lot of miles on, I think he would have been really good in that first season. But because of that torn groin, you got no good Palat. There's that one playoff run in 23, right, is the one time you had good Palat. But everything else is kind of pretty terrible. But what's your thoughts?
Why is this all coming out now? If it came out after the signing of Palat, that's one thing. But it just conveniently comes out now. And it's and to be honest with you, I mean, it may be true. I'm not disputing that. But whoever leaked that out, that was pretty strategic. And, I would take it with a grain of salt.
There's also there's the Hamilton rumor where Fitzgerald tried to not sign Hamilton, and then ownership came in and said that he needs to sign Hamilton, which is why he's trying to trade Hamilton instead of Palat, because Hamilton's not his guy. He never was his guy. That one I don't believe. I don't think ownership is that in tune to players. And of course, Larry Brooks did that, the late Larry Brooks, the legendary sports writer, he did that article about how Tom Fitzgerald courted Dougie Hamilton with the emails and stuff like that. I think that there's truth to that, and I trust Larry Brooks's reporting on stories like that. And Larry Brooks has really good connections inside the Devils organization because he used to work there. I know it was 30 years ago, but there's still people there who trust him. So I don't know if I believe that one, but that's out, and this is what happened. That's out now. There's a story out there that he's forcing Sheldon Keefe to run the Tom Fitzgerald system, and people put two and two together that this isn't the Toronto system. It looks nothing like the Toronto system. And I will say this looks weirdly similar to the defensive system they ran 2 years ago that I hated. It's not the same. It's a little better, but it's definitely – all those times that Luke Hughes is trying to poke check the guy while he's basically skating through him is stuff I saw from Kevin Ball, and I hate it. And then it's basically just it's a lot of rumors of Fitzgerald not listening to his guys. He puts all these really smart people around him and then doesn't listen to them. But again, he has a lot of people working for them, and why would you work for a guy who doesn't listen to you when you're in those decision-making roles? So, I
completely agree with you. I think all these leaks are all strategic. We've had Rachel Dory on before. I forgot her new
I think her name was Chris Shack.
Yeah,
her new name is Chris Shack. I think. I was just talking to her not too long ago.
I mean, some of the, when we've had her on, I mean, when she talks behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't, all these little things these rumors that you're putting out doesn't sound like Tom Fitzgerald, to be honest. I think. If you disagree, okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Go ahead.
I disagree with the premise. I don't disagree with this specific rumor. Does that make sense? I think Fitzgerald leaks a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I actually think he leaked that Carolina is interested in Hamilton because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. A, why would the Devils trade with Carolina? B, why would Carolina reacquire Dougie Hamilton when they offered him like $5 million when he went to free agency, or $6 million? I forget which one it was. Why would they pay $9 million for him now, post injury, when he's not as effective, and they're trying to make a run? I don't know if he's the guy. I know Slavin's hurt over there, but that doesn't make a ton of sense. But seeing that was LeBron is Fitzgerald's guy. I don't trust anything. No offense to Friedman. I think Friedman has so many great connections. When it comes to Devil's rumors, I listen to LeBron. Because I think he just has. I think he is. That's why I think it's Fitzgerald on speed dial. So when it's Friedman, I'm like, I don't think it's Fitz. I mean, it's somebody else. You can only take that with a grain of salt. So, but here's the thing. We're talking about all this. Do you think that yesterday was a blip, or was that a monumental shift?
I think neither. I think what it is they were motivated. They were motivated for Quinn because they had to live through that whole saga, and I think it's just a one-hit wonder what happened yesterday.
I would agree with you if it wasn't the people if there was different people who showed up. The fact that it was Brat and Nico and Dougie.
You forgot about Palat.
That felt like a blip. That felt like just like he has those games like every season. There's one game where you're like, who's this guy? But the fact, like, because the way the locker room has worked, so I've been, I try to put my Bill Simmons hat on and be the body language doctor. Luke and Jack have very different approaches to the game right now. And I think that Jack Hughes is the unhappy one, and I don't think Luke Hughes cares. I think Jack Hughes is really upset that Quinn, and again, I'm just kind of going by body language. If I could guess, I think that Jack Hughes is really upset that Quinn Hughes isn't in New Jersey. I think Luke Hughes could care less. I think the reason I think he wants his brother there. I think the reason he could care less is because he's having a bad season, and that's all he really cares about. Is like he missed out in the Olympic team. He got booed on his home ice. Like he could care less about not playing with his brother because he's trying to get his own house in order. But when I looked yesterday, Jack looked like Jack again, but he doesn't look like Jack in these games. When Quinn was on Vancouver, he would do that thing where he takes it up a notch. The thing he does against the Rangers, the things he does on national television. Every so often, Jack Hughes is like, I'm going to go psycho mode. That wasn't him yesterday. He looked like regular Jack Hughes, which is the first time we've seen that Jack Hughes in a while, where he could take over games, he could take over plays. But we saw an extra motivation from Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt, and I saw big smiles from Jesper Bratt that I haven't seen in a while. I saw Nico Hischier has been crushing it on the boards. He's been winning board battles over and over and over and over again, and he's trying to put this team on his back. And I noticed that it felt like the lines had more chemistry, and it happened after Keefe separated Hughes, Hischier, and Bratt. Hughes is just not the best on the wing. I don't mind Hughes not taking faceoffs, but he has to go with a guy who's like a tweener. Like, put him with Mercer and let Mercer take the faceoffs or whatever. But Jack Hughes has to play center on the ice. So when he's playing with Nico Hischier, Hischier's going to play center on the ice, and then Jack has to change his position. Not the best for chemistry. And also, like I said, I just think there's like some weirdness with that. I think Jack is a little frustrated, as he should be. Devils had a chance to get the second best defenseman in the world and connect the three brothers. Make for a honky-dory situation. and Jack Hughes Slater's going to be here forever, probably. They're going to get my brother. We're going to sign forever, and we're going to be right outside New York City. I'm going to date supermodels and singers who sing weird songs, and life is going to be grand. And now he has to think, I could be gone. Am I going to be gone as early as this off season? It's just a different mindset. But I think Luke Hughes is looking at like, man, I missed out on the Olympic team. I need to get my stuff in order, and he's shown that. He's been so Luke Hughes has been a lot better. He still has some work to do on the defensive end, but he's been, as long as Luke Hughes is doing more on the offensive end than he's hurting the team on the defensive end, that's what you want. And he's been doing that in spades lately. And again, if you get this version of Nico Hischier and just the problem is Timo Meyer. Timo Meyer is playing like bad lately. He's good on the defensive end, but that's not why you paid him almost $9 million.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I'm not gonna complain about it right now because he got so much good. There's two players that I need more out of lately, and it's Meyer and Gritzik. Gritzik hasn't been very good lately. Gritzik will do one thing that's great that only he can do, but then he'll lose the puck in a really weird way. Or he won't get into the right position for a one-timer, or he's just not quite there. You saw it yesterday on the power play. They put him on the first power play yesterday, and that first power play didn't play so well. Second power play played great, and then when they merged the two, and then Gritzik was on the bench, but like Hughes and Hischier were on the ice, they scored, I believe. Pretty sure that's when they scored. So they got to get him going. Again, he's coming off an injury. He's in his first season, and this team was down in the dumps, so he's probably like, what the heck is going on? But yeah, so Sam, I know I went in a lot of different directions. Is there anything you want to address that I've brought up?
Can't think of anything right now.
Do you think Hamilton gets traded before our next podcast? Before our next podcast, not your next podcast. It was 8 days.
I say no, only because Fitzgerald takes forever to make a decision.
He does. That's why he makes all these deadline decisions, because he's been talking to people for months without pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
Sam, have you ever worked sales?
Of course. Long time ago.
We all knew the guy who couldn't close, right? He had a great pitch, couldn't close, and then your pitch was useless. But yeah, that seems like Fitzgerald now. He can't close.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, you think about it. You always, kicks the tire. Kick the tires. Uses those terms. After what happened with Vancouver. Again, and I think it's reflective. On the ice and off the ice. I think Fitzgerald's trying to make the perfect move. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't say he's scared, but he's always trying to make the perfect move, just like how the Devils are trying to make the perfect play, and they keep on passing around all day long, whereas Fitzgerald keeps on talking all day long. And in order to close a deal, closing a deal is like the hardest in sales. Yeah. And you have to be, when you close a deal, it's kind of like a closer in baseball. You got to come with tremendous amount of energy and seal the deal. And Fitzgerald has a problem with that. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have the utmost confidence to close a deal. It's because it's. You just have to go into it thinking like it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And do you know the trade deadline is almost like when those guys were bad at closing, when their jobs got threatened, be like, if you don't close the deal this week, like, you're fired. They'd always close a deal because that desperation kind of changes your mindset forcefully. You don't have any choice. And that seems like him at the deadline. But if you always have this, like, well, what if you get a better deal? Or what if somebody offers more? Like if you have all these what ifs, he's just going to keep spinning his wheels. And like, that's also why I think the Hamilton deal hasn't gotten done yet. We heard about the Sharks deal. Right, and we did a story on Pucks and Pitchforks based on a report from Max in San Jose. Max Miller, I think his name is San Jose. Talked to it's JP. What's his last name?
Gambitese or something like that.
No. Hamilton's agent, JP.
Oh,
Barry.
JP Barry. Oh, okay.
He spoke to JP Barry about was San Jose still on his list, or is San Jose he's like, well, it doesn't matter now. San Jose's not interested. Basically, essentially, like the circumstances have changed. So, and that's a lot of teams, And the good news is you're halfway through the season, so the team really only needs to make like $4.5 million available. Cap space is very confusing, but it's essentially they have to make like $4.5 million available. So it's not like they have to make the whole $9 million available right now for this season. Obviously, it's future seasons that are a problem, but I think the Devils could find a team that can make it work this season. I think they can find plenty of teams that can make it work this season. And I think there's a bunch of teams that think that they can trade for Hamilton now as a distressed asset, like a Vegas. I think what Vegas would do is they would trade for Hamilton now, and then they would trade him again in the offseason if he has a big playoff run, and just kind of flip the asset again. And, I think there are teams that are thinking of that. I forget who the other team that was in on it that they said. It was Carolina and I can't remember the other one, but there's so many rumors around Hamilton because he's
there's Toronto, right? Isn't Toronto in it? Nashville?
Toronto, yeah, Toronto is the one that's in it. Nashville, I've heard a lot, I've heard you could make that work without waiving, if you know what I mean.
Okay,
but I don't know that for sure. That's just what I've heard. But we'll see. I mean, Nashville makes sense because there's a lot that you want to get done there. But again, I don't think Ryan O'Reilly is in the block right now. I think Nashville is trying to push for it. I'm gonna look at the standings right now because I just want to see where Nashville is. Whether they're doing this to kind of make money work, or if they're doing this to. All right, so Nashville is 2 points out. So, I think Nashville's still going to push for the playoffs. I think what you're really going to look at is I think there's something to be done with St. Louis, and then maybe you do a 3-team trade where you send Hamilton to Dallas is a team that makes a lot of sense. And they're another team that I think they'll trade from now with that Tyler Seguin money, and then look to trade him again in the offseason, or maybe and I think. Because here's the thing, I don't know. I'd have to get either an agent on or an accountant, but I wonder because Dougie is owed more than $7 million in cash this offseason on July 1st. If he's technically in Texas, I think he doesn't pay state taxes on that. So,
you want to know something? It's very interesting you say that because I don't think New Jersey would give up their money that easily.
Well, so with the jock tax, they don't really have a choice. That's not really how it works. You pay the tax based on where you're playing, not where you're residing. If he lived in New Jersey, there would be complications there. And maybe there's complications because if he has to file New Jersey and Dallas. Like, you wouldn't even file in Dallas. But
believe it or not, there was a landmark case, Ulf Samuelsson. I have to go back to it. Ulf Samuelsson had that problem back when he played for the Philadelphia Flyers. His residency was in New Jersey, Cherry Hill area, I believe. And he was traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I'll have to do some research on that because New Jersey.
The Philly thing is a mess. The living in or working in Philly and living in New Jersey, it leads to messy taxes. I've dealt with it. Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. What year was this? Is like early 2000s, right?
Maybe in the 90s.
Right. So we're talking about 7 tax codes ago. You know what I mean? But I hear what you're saying.
But it was a landmark case because it had something to do with they owned the property in New Jersey, but nobody was living there. Just because they owned it didn't mean that they were residents. So, anyway, let's not get into the taxes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's not. But I think he would be open to a no tax or low tax state like Nashville, like Dallas, like Vegas, Florida, Tampa. I think Tampa would love to have Hamilton. I just don't think they want to pay anybody like that $9 million. Especially got Hedman, which is basically like the rich man's version of Dougie Hamilton. Like they're very similar players, but Hedman's a lot better. And here's the thing, Sam. I think he's going to be traded. I think there's a 10% chance that he's this, and he doesn't get traded. Very small chance, but I think there's a very small chance that he's part of the solution. And he plays his way to stick on this team. And they revisit again in the offseason. Because here's the thing is that they still have, with Nason, like Kovacevic is back. Everybody's back, and they're cap compliant, right? Because Nason went on, he got surgery, and McEwen got surgery, so that gave you enough money to make it work. So all you have to do is money in, money out. I think you could do that with Mercer and maybe another piece. Like maybe I'm trying to think of like a low but not minimum. I don't think they want to trade Dadonov because Dadonov's like him and Gritsik have been like attached to the hip since he got back.
Yeah.
And like I don't think Glendening makes enough. And you could bury Glendening in the AHL whenever you want. Like you could just bury him in the AHL. Because Nason would have been that guy, but he's on LTIR, so it's not relevant. I don't think they're trading Dylan.
He's too valuable. He's too valuable, though.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them trading Siegenthaler. Because Kovacevic has been good since he got back. And, there's probably a little pop from coming back from the injury. He's probably excited. I don't think Siegenthaler has been bad this year, but he hasn't been good. I'm just going through the roster. I don't. Obviously, Palat. Palat would be. If you could trade him, that would be something that I think a lot of people would be amenable to. But I'm just not. I'm not in my head seeing a lot of you're not gonna trade Brown. Mercer would be the guy. Mercer and Palat and maybe Siegenthaler or Dylan are the guys you're looking at. And
have you looked at their no movements on all these guys?
Mercer doesn't have any.
Yeah. He's the only tradable guy right now.
Right. I'm pretty sure Siegenthaler and Dylan have something.
But I would never trade Dawson Mercer. I wouldn't do it. For a team that's very fragile with guys with injuries, You kind of need Mercer there.
I hear you. I do. And then there's the conversation of like, do you make a big move and like maybe you trade a Jesper Bratt for Tage Thompson with some pieces going both ways, or you try to, these happen all the time in the '90s where you traded a star for a star, or like a semi-star for a semi-star, where you just try to get something that was a better fit for your roster.
Yeah,
I seen some people say Cody Glass as an option. I understand it on the surface, but like you really can't hurt your center depth right now. I just don't think you can.
Yeah,
there's just nothing you can do about it. I was looking up Dylan's trade protection. He has, looks like a full no move clause, a full no trade clause. And Jonas Siegenthaler has a 10-team no trade list, so he could be traded to like 21 other teams. So Siegenthaler's like the easiest one to trade right now. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. But Sam, I think we're about at the end. I'm ready for plugs if you are.
Yeah, why don't we plug?
PucksandPitchforks.com. We have a couple articles up on there. I had one saying that, how important is it, Sam, that Quinn Hughes watched that happen? We've heard so much that, like, well, Quinn's just going to resign in Minnesota now. After that, in Minnesota, sneakily, hasn't been that good. I think they're 4-6 in the last 10 games. Not great. So I do think it's somewhat important. Not a lot, but I do think he'll be thinking about this. Obviously, we wrote about Dougie Hamilton. And we have, listen, Sam, we have dozens of articles coming out every week. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. You won't regret it.
Well, bucksandpitchforks.com, as I've been saying for the last few days, I'm putting out articles at, 6 a clip each day? It seems like it's a lot.
Yeah, the past couple of days. Today we've only had 2. But, no, we had 3, because I wrote about the Trenton Ironhawks. Oh, we had 4. So I guess it is getting, today was a slow day. We wrote 4, so that tells you what we're doing.
Yeah. I got something to plug. I'll be at American Whiskey tomorrow for Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. And for Wednesday and Saturday, also working on maybe another trip or 2. Not sure yet. After that bus trip. I know Danielle McCartan is working on some stuff right now. Exciting. Also working on.
Goes better than a 9-0 loss. That's all I'm going to say.
That's not her fault. We showed up. The team didn't. Anyway. And thank you, Johnny Danks, for he liked the football calls yesterday, Nick.
Great.
With the 2 Hamilton. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, we're going to get out of here. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. And, and also there's going to be the Morning Woo, Game Day Live, and Devils After Dark. It's going to be a triple header Wednesday. Hey, Nick, good job. We moved the show for that was supposed to be for tomorrow to today. So we're keep the continuity going.
Yeah, the Devils are doing us no favors.
Yeah.
These Wednesday games are killing me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, we'll see you later. Till next time, let's go Devils.